Hi, we're here to talk about the nomadic pirate lifestyle. My name is Affliction Star. I am a scout interceptor pilot and junior director for SniggWaffe. I'll be talking to you about what it means to be an outlaw in EVE Online and what it means to be nomadic in the game.
Hello friends, my name is Zeno Cezine. I'm a senior director for Waffles as well as a Waffle FC. I'm here to talk to you today about content creation, because who doesn't like content?
So I'm the cheetah that's growling at everyone because I'm the mean one and Zeno's the nice one who's looking off to the side. Nicest waffle we've ever had. So surviving as an outlaw in EVE. What does it mean to be an outlaw? In general, it means that your security status is below -5.0. So this means that you are completely locked out of high-sec, and you will be chased by the faction police whenever you go into high-sec. You can't cloak. Everyone in the game can shoot you without Concord intervening. You're not allowed to be in the safe areas, so to speak, safe areas of space. Some people do make a game out of this and try to compete for the top spot on EVE board of the lowest security status in the game. I've been there for a little while. Some people probably passed me by now. And then the other important thing is there are no gate guns when people shoot you. So if you're, even in low-sec, if people shoot you, they will not take gate guns. They will not take station guns, which means everything is against you when you fight. You can use high security space as a shortcut to go between different areas of low and null-sec, but in general, it's not really preferred unless the alternative is going 50 jumps. You want to avoid high-sec whenever possible. If you go into high-sec, you can do that with fast-aligning cruisers and anything faster than that. But then again, even if people go with you into high-sec, if they're not paying attention, they let their gate cloak run out and they forget to align and warp, you just lost a ship for free. And there goes your fighting force. So there's that cat is high-sec. It doesn't like the fact that we're going in there. So this brings up the question, what about JITA? What about hauling? What about logistics? And the really short answer is use an alt. Use an alt that's not an outlaw. So you can train a station trader in 30 days. You just spend a Plex, multi-character training, and you have a 30-day alt that you can park in a trade hub and do all of your buying and selling for you. To move your things around, you can use a public hauling service. There's Red Frog, PushX, Black Frog. Use any of those to move your stuff around. Your corporation might even have its own jump freighter service where you just contract your stuff in a courier contract to the corporation, and someone in the corporation who has a jump freighter will move your stuff to where you want it to go. And which all of that leads into keeping your staging system stocked, which is something I'll cover when we go into the nomadic section. Making ISK, in general, if you're an outlaw, you're not shooting rats, which means you're not making ISK that way. Some people like to do station trading, like I mentioned before, make ISK that way. Some people like to do faction warfare missions. Some people like to do incursions. There are loads of different ways that you can make ISK in the game, even as an outlaw. So we have this mother lioness is hauling her cub to where she needs to go. So I'll hand it over to Zeno.
Once again, friends, I'm here to talk to you about content creation, the bread and butter of anything we do in EVE. Content creation is not just fleet fights, but that is what I'm going to talk to you tonight is about fleets. However, the politicians, the diplos, the market traders, all of this is content. Even the riders and miners can be content for someone. Moving into the bread and butter of it, who here doesn't like a good EVE fight? Is anyone here going to say that EVE is not amazing for its fights? Because solo PvP, you're out with your Link Salt, fighting the good fight, looking for the engagements you can take. This is an aspect of content. Microgang, 2 to 5. There are some organizations that excel in the microgang aspect of gameplay. Small gang, large gang, medium-sized gang. These are all the content that I'm generally into is the small to medium-sized range, but it's the fleet fights. Capital fights, as we heard, they're rebalancing capitals. This is going to open up amazing new options for content creation. Ganks, suicide ganking in high sec, blopsing, hot drops, Also, content. So much content in the game if you're willing to look for it. Saw fights. The new Entosis mechanic, I know there was a lot of debate over it, but for us, it's been incredible for content. You go and create a station timer, you go in Entosis station services, and boom, all the content you can want. As you can see, it's a hot drop of clock time. Basics of content. This is very, very basic, but roaming. Look at Dotland, look at your heat maps. Look at your intel sources if you have those, your logistic channels. Find where there's action going on, get 2 or 100 of your favorite friends together, start heading that way. What happens if it's 100 jumps? Bada bing, bada boom. Wormholes. Thera was an amazing ability to travel throughout the game. Wormhole connections can also lead to amazing content. Jump into a wormhole with a scout. Oh no, they're doing escalations. There's caps out there. Go find them, go kill them. As you can see, roaming does have some disadvantages of the angry face. Okay, here's the little bit more serious and more interesting side of content creation. Scouting, talking about those solo pilots. You can have a solo pilot out there that finds a fleet of 50. He can't engage it, but that pilot's in your organization. He creates a D-scan. You get the intel on it. You can go form a fleet from that pilot scouting or just a scout out randomly hauling something and get an amazing engagement. A few of the people I fly with love to solo. They've found so many fleets for me to fight that are in the 20 to 30 man range, it's not even funny, and some of those engagements are the best I've had in game. Intel networks. Everyone here has heard the bat phone, I'm sure, but getting bat phoned or hearing about someone trying to find a bat phone can be amazing for creating content because you know there's something going down, you just might not know where. So the intel sources can inform you of where everything's happening if you have good intel. Good intel is crucial. Bad intel, you kind of get dunked. Timers. Timers are another amazing content generation thing. Find a POCO, find a POS, Intos is a station. Anything you can do to guarantee that people are going to show up or lose their stuff. Because, quite frankly, if they don't show up, why do they have it in the first place? Another thing with timers is you can capitalize on other people's work, third party. Your scouts are out roaming, your intel networks are out looking for their stuff. Oh, the POCO in A1E or whatever, I'm just going to choose a random system that might not exist, is coming out in an hour. You can form up, put some scouts on there, see if anyone shows up for it. Anytime you can capitalize on someone else's hard work and create a third-party opportunity is probably some of the greatest fights you can have because you don't have any skin in the game besides who to shoot. This brings it to the last part of content creation I'm going to go over to today, unless you guys have questions after the presentation. Always be on the lookout for an opportunity to fight. I've read so many things on Reddit that, oh, there's no content in my region. Oh, there's no content here. Look for it. To be honest, every single region of EVE has content. High-sec, low-sec, null-sec, wormholes. If you're willing to look for content, you will find content. The hard part about it is getting people organized to look for it. It does take some effort, but if you're always looking for an opportunity to fight, there always will be an opportunity to fight.
And so here we have content. They're not too happy with that line. So we talked about being an outlaw. We've talked about creating content where you are. Now let's pick ourselves up and move to different areas of the game. I've put the Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of nomadic up here. The way that it applies to EVE is that you deploy to where the action is. So this brings up two important points that I'll cover here. The first one is your supply lines. You can't just go to the map, point to a random system, and say, I'm going to deploy here, and this is where we're going to move all of our stuff. Okay, how are you going to move your stuff there? Is there a safe route for you to get your freighters or jump freighters there? Is there a safe route between the trade hubs and where you're going to live? Because as soon as you run out of ships and reinforcements and modules, drones, ammo, everything, as soon as you run out of that in your system, then you no longer have a fighting force. And you cannot create fights, you can't take fights. So you need to keep that in mind. The other thing is the geography of the region that you're going to. This is especially important with the new soft mechanics. If you want to fight in a constellation that is just a single pipe, there's one way to get from one side of it to the other, then it's very, very easy to lock it down. You camp one gate, and you have control of the entire constellation. You have the control, you win the timer, you win the fight, you gain Sov. On the other hand, if you have a constellation that's a very well-connected web of systems, every system is connected to every other system, then there's no one choke point for you to hold. There are many different ways for enemy fleets to get around your camps and be able to flank you, catch command nodes that you don't know about yet because you don't have eyes in that system. So you need to keep in mind the geography of your constellation for that reason. The other reason is capital jump drives. And I'm talking about combat capitals here, not blops, not jump freighters. Your jump drive range was reduced last year to 5 light years. So now you actually do need to keep in mind, where are my capitals staged? How far can they jump? Am I roaming in that area? If you're roaming outside that area, you either need to take them with you through the gates, which is going to slow down your fleet. You're going to be a lot more clunky and caught a lot more easily. Or you need to stage your capitals in multiple systems. As soon as you exit the range of the first system, you need to jump your capitals to another system and have them ready to go there. That takes work, that takes planning, and you have to keep that in mind when you choose a system to deploy to. So now let's tie it all together. Here we have the little waffle kitty. Zeno and I are in SniggWaffe. We've been in there for over a year. And in Waffles, what we do is we promote usefulness above everything else. Usefulness means that the pilots in Waffles help us achieve everything that we've talked about here today. Well, I'll hand it over to Zeno. He's got this.
As we've talked about for content and for Nomadic, few people here, I've looked around the room, I've seen some people I know that have caps. It's a pain in the ass to move from one region with your caps to another. So everyone has to be useful. It's hard to get content if you're not out looking for it. So everyone has to scout. We expect everyone to FC, and we expect everyone to fly Logi. This is just a simple requirement to really exist the way we do. It's really hard if you only have 1 or 2 dudes doing everything, so we have to spread it out so everyone does everything. We do due to activity requirements. Some groups use other measurements, but a measurement of activity is very useful for staying nomadic and staying moving, because if people aren't playing with you and you move, they're trapped. So we have a 60 and 60 requirement for 60 kills in 60 days. Sounds like a lot. For some organizations, I believe it's called PAP-links. I'm not really familiar with it, but as long as you have something to keep it motivated, it's a good way to keep your pilots in touch with the game. And as we are in Waffles, I recently graduated to PL, but we in Waffles promote all this. So if you're active, useful, show competence, you do graduate into PL. And that is the little waffle spew. I'd like to open it at this floor this time to nomadic lifestyle, pirates, content creation. Looks like we only have one working mic, so I'll bring it down. If you guys want to come over here, if you have questions, let's do some Q&A.
Does this mic work? It does.
Beautiful. I have it if anyone wants a question.
Questions, anyone? There, we got a question.
So a question about deploying to new regions that may be far away from your staging. If you're going somewhere where you're not familiar with the region and the other fleets that you're going to find there, what's the quickest way to get up to speed in terms of learning your enemy and learning the best systems to find content?
You want to send scouts ahead of you. Find out what the region looks like. Find out who lives there. Get your intel before you move. So gather your intel, and then decide what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis once you've actually moved there.
Yeah, it does all come down to intel. If you know the region, you know your enemies, you know where you can fight, you know where you can look. You guys just raise your hand or anyone, I'm happy to have my mic around. We're here to answer questions for it.
There, question in the back.
How do you decide how much logistics to bring?
Again, logistics ties down to how long you're going to be there without reinforcements. If you can reinforce yourself, resupply yourself in a day, you don't need to bring a whole lot. If you're going to be there a week without logistics, it takes a lot more effort and a lot more planning, because you don't know how many ships you're going to lose, how many fights you're going to get in. It all comes down to really the planning stages of it.
I guess I meant more in ship choice, and we could make it a little more general. How do you form the right kind of gang to match what you have to fight?
Forming up a gang, this depends again on objectives. If you're out roaming, you generally bring a decent amount of logi. There's numbers that you can run, like the 4-to-1 rule, 4 logi for every or 4 DPS for every logi. There's general statistics like that. I found those pretty meaningless. Generally, if I know I'm going to go fight a gang, I get the D-scan, I make a plan of what doctrine I want to choose. I'm going to see how E-War they have, how much alpha they have, how much projection they have, and bring the logi ships that support that. So, quick example, if they have, I've been fighting Drakes recently, so they have 80 Drakes. They can alpha through most battle cruisers, most T1 cruisers, most battleships. At that point, my logistic concern means I have to outrange you, and I still need to have the DPS to break you. So I'm still going to bring a decent-sized logi gang, but DPS, range, and E-War become a lot more crucial over the logi. Let's say I'm going to be brawling you at 0. I want to bring more logi to let me stay on grid longer than E-War, or the DPS is crucial to win, but it just depends on engagement profile, engagement range, and what you're doing. Does that answer the question? No worries. Anyone else?
There we go, another question.
Do you think with the current mechanics that low-sec is better than null-sec for getting content?
Actually, if you've seen what we've been doing out in the Cloud Ring region, the content, we've been having up to 8 fleets a day for a while. There's just been content there. Really, you have to go where the content is. Low-sec's incredible. This deployment to Cloud Ring has probably been the most content I've had per day in my entire existence in game.
Yeah, and the amount of content you find depends on the population of the region. If there's nobody living in the region, then there's nobody to shoot there. So you need to find people to shoot first. Out of curiosity, how many people, by a show of hands, how many of you are high-sec primarily? Yeah, Grath is high-sec. How about low-sec? Anyone low-sec? Null-sec? Ooh, nice.
How many people here live everywhere? Talking about wormholes, I've done a little bit with them, and the content strategies in there are just incredible. It's a fun aspect of the game. Each flavor of space gives a unique aspect to content. Yep.
How do I avoid being content for another group?
Well, that's actually a very interesting question. You can't. There's 2 types of content. There's the content you want and the content you don't want. The only one way to avoid content is to stay docked. Who wants to do that? There's strategies you can do to minimize your content. Intel networks, scouting, deployment strategies. Making sure you know where bad guys are can limit your risk to content. If I am out in 20 frigates and I see rapid caracals in equal numbers, I don't want that fight. So I'm going to do everything I can to avoid them. If we're staying in a system and they drop, let's go Chimeras on the station, combat entities, undocking the entities, run away. They're stuck on the station. We can move around and go find the content we want. If you're out mining, D-scan. If you're out blopsing, you want to have your hunters in position. For the Radar, it's the Intel network. For the Blopser, it's trying to outwork the Intel network. Everything in EVE that I've found has a counterplay to it. And that is how you don't become the content you don't want, is you effectively use the counterplays to your advantage. Reverse side is true too. If you're trying to create content, you outplay the enemy so you get the content you want.
And then there's been a few times I've roamed into Declan with a bunch of waffles, and we didn't find anyone out in space, because as soon as we enter the area, they yell out on their intel networks that, hey, there's a bunch of waffles and battle cruisers coming through, make sure you don't get caught by them. So that's the way to avoid being content. I think this might be our last one.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm actually in the Galente faction warfare area, and one of the biggest problems is the Svipul gate camp. How do you deal with that shit?
Okay, slipfuls. I don't know the numbers you're talking about with it, but let's say there's, 10 slipfuls. Here's how you deal with it. How many people do you have? Do you want to kill them or do you want to break them up? You can send in a bait sino, Black Ops drop them. You can form rapid light caracols, drop that. Send in a bait ship, get them engaged, multiple scram, multiple webs, kill it. If your objects chase them off gate, run through in something heavy that they don't want to fight. It all breaks down to what your objective is. If your objective is to clear the gate, run something heavy. Gate's clear, you can get whatever you're going through. If your objective is to kill them, you have to make them engage so you can engage them back. Does that answer the question, or is there any more?
Basically, to avoid this Fipple gate camp, don't go through it solo.
Well, I think we're out of
Scouts.
time by the looks of it. I'll stick around a little bit after the presentation, but I believe there's another one coming right up.
Thank you.